Thank you all for coming, especially those who traveled a great distance geographically and emotionally. Paul died on Saturday, November 24th. 160,000 other people died that day. And about 300,000 people were born. Birth flows into death, but life is eternal. We have a stage up here so you can see the presenters, and we have a sound system so they can be heard, but they are not performers, and you are not spectators. Today we're a circle of friends. There'll be an opportunity later in the program for anyone who wishes to speak to do so spontaneously. And at the end of our celebration, we'll all be joining together to sing Paul across the river. So, no applause, please. Let's keep our appreciation focused on Paul. We're here to celebrate Paul's life and also to culture an experience in this time together of his essence, which will live in our hearts forever. Welcome.
So I'd like to start by way of offering a blessing, a very ancient blessing that is actually written in Aramaic. It comes to us from the Hebrew tradition, and it's also sometimes known as the priestly blessing. And it's given to people during momentous moments in life when they need a little extra charge of protection, of the divine presence, of us holding them. So I'd like to invite Anya, just come right down here, and to join her Tara, Sandor, Barry, and Eva. Just come on up and stand with Anya in this moment. And then if Heather and Jeff and maybe Norman, Richard, would you come up and be the four pillars for me around these beautiful beings? This is a talit, it's a prayer shawl. And it said that the heavens were spread out like a garment of light. So this is a garment of light. And we're going to sing this blessing to these holy beings, that as they walk through this time of transition, of opening, of receiving and releasing, that we pray that the Holy One shine her face with radiant light right before you, protecting you, guarding you, and guiding you on every path of peace. God bless and keep you friends, and shine a light upon you. May the garden of the life you tend bring forth graciousness and peace. The road is long, the journey can be quite hard, and no one is strong enough to travel it alone. May you be a blessing and be blessed by everyone who knows you. And may you always do your best to live your life in love. Sing with me. I la la, I la 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 la, I la la la, shine a light upon you. May the garden of life you tend bring forth graciousness and peace. And let's surround Anya and family. We hold you, we bless you, we love you. We hold you, we bless you, we love you. We hold you, we bless you, we love you. Shine upon you now. We hold you, we bless you, we love you. May the transition be easy. We hold you, we bless you, we love you. May you be comforted so deeply. We hold you, we bless you, we love you. May graciousness find you. We hold you, we bless you, we love you. We hold you, we bless you, we love you. May you be blessed, comforted, held, guided, and illuminated. Amen.
is sad and joyful. Paul was a unique character, as we all know. He did things his way. He had a passion to see the mature masculine show up in men. And he gave much of his energy and his life to that. Men who are here know that. And in the final weeks of Paul's life, as he was moving toward the exit door, men stepped up to be with him, probably for 3 weeks ahead of time, before the last moment came. A way of expressing their love for him as he had expressed his love for them. And because Paul was such a unique character, he had the opportunity, as his body began to fail, to end this nonsense. In fact, I can recall him saying during that time, "Get me out of here." But then, on the other hand, he was curious. He wanted to see what the cycle would yield, how it would go, and this was his life. And so the poem I'm going to share with you now is about that. I think this is his character. This is Mary Oliver. When death comes. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn. When death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps his purse shut. When death comes like the measles pox. When death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades. I want to step through the door, full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending as all music does towards silence. And each body a lion of courage, and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was a bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened, or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. That was Paul. And it is said that after he passed and he was washed and prepared and lay in the house for 24 hours, initially he looked pretty taciturn. But as time went on, his mouth began to turn up. There was a cosmic joke going on here. And I expect if Paul is present today, he is still laughing. And he is free as a bird to do what comes next.
I honor and bless this community. And let us all know that this community is much larger than the number of people in this room. This way and this way, there are candles being lit all over the continent. People calling me and sending emails. So we're connected to Maui and Kauai, and the Big Island, in Alaska, in Toronto, and Eugene, and Seattle, Portland, Northern California, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, New York, Florida, Michigan. So many people holding the space of love. This great cathedral of the heart, which is who we are. No mistake, Paul Moss, that you took this opportunity, this time on planet Earth, to make your exit on the slide of life so we could all celebrate in a very big way with you. It's a time of great surrender for me and letting go. And I'm remembering my vows, some of my vows that I took when Paul and I married. It was the first day of summer, June 21st, 1986. And I said, I surrender to the life that is living me, to the love that is loving me, and to the infinite grace of the universe. This is my prayer now. I'm in awe of the way that we all are able to come together and support each other. I could not have made this walk by myself for the last 2 months. You held me, you fed me, you nurtured me. This was not a lone walk that I took. And this is the world that I want to continue to live in. This is the planet Earth that we came here to be. The sensitivity and the awareness that we've had for each other, and the great listening. So beautiful. And in honor of that, this came 2 days ago for Paul and me, from our friend Sel in Eugene. Sel is a poet, and she was always right on in her communications with Paul, even though he didn't like poetry. She was always right on. And so she sent this for Paul, a plainclothes yogi. These are the words of Kabir, 15th century. He doesn't go on pilgrimages or to religious fairs or attend congregations. He doesn't keep fasts. He doesn't have an alms bowl, but he never goes hungry. At night, after his wanderings, he returns to his home and sleeps in the courtyard. You can't meet him, says Kabir. He's left the country we're all citizens of, and he's not coming back. He's left this country we're all citizens of, and he's not coming back.
in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love. I'm a clinging cymbal. I am a noisy God. I have not love. If I have faith to make the mountains move, but have not love, I am nothing. And if I give away everything that I have, offer my body for burning, but have not love, I am nothing. I have not love. I am nothing without love. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm a clinging cymbal. I am a noisy God. I have not love. If I have faith to make the mountains move,
I believe Michael was right. I believe Paul is laughing right now. He might be laughing at us, he might be laughing with us. At a minimum, he is rolling his eyes with a big smile on his face. And the reason I feel pretty sure about this is because of the very first words I ever heard him say and the very last words I ever heard him say, with 10 years in between. And I want to tell you what those were after talking about Paul's life for a couple minutes. If we talk about Paul's life in terms of what he did, the work he did and the activities he did, we would be here a very long time. He did a remarkable list of things for work, for adventure in his life, pretty unique. The one that I think is my favorite, because I drank so well when he did it, was the Green Springs Water Company and all that wonderful water he brought down off the mountain. But if we were to list all the things that Paul did, we wouldn't necessarily know that much about who he was. We'd know that he was original and daring and adaptive, interesting. But to get beyond that, you kind of had to spend time with him. And my great good fortune is that our dogs have been best friends for years. So for hundreds of mornings, Paul and I, usually Anya, and Sophie and Mona would walk early in the morning. And what I remember walking next to Paul is feeling a different radiant energy, a different aliveness from him, depending on what he was talking about. And he would talk some about all his past exploits and jobs and what he'd learned, some great stories. That was kind of a low-level flame for him. And then, in recent years, he talked more about his work with people at the end of their lives. Meals on Wheels and hospice. He's a powerful hospice volunteer. And holding space with them, being with them, with curiosity and care about their journey and their transition. And you could feel his passion, you could feel his sense of being used well, spending the last part of someone's life with him. That was a medium flame. His full flame came out when he talked about all the work he did with broken men. Men who were broken by their alcohol and drug addictions, who we sat in circle with for years, and the men at Folsom Prison. Paul sat for hours on end with men who had done such brutally violent things that very few of us could stay in the room with them. And that's not what he saw when he saw them. That's not what he felt. What he felt was their spirit before they were broken, and the spirit that was still there, and the spirit that came out in their bonding and their support and their care for their brothers in prison. And Paul would talk about his love for these men. Sometimes he'd get very tight in the throat to talk about how much he loved them. And when he was there in Folsom, he loved them. When he was there in Circle with men at On Track, whose lives had gone so wrong, who felt so abandoned and so hopeless, he loved them, and his love made a big difference. And when he would share that, that's when you knew who he was. That's when the flame was full, and that's when you knew why he was here, why he came here. As far as I know, there are no Folsom Prison inmates in the room, but oh, the stories the men in this room could tell you about where Paul took them. There are men in this room who have been to the darkest, most painful corners of their souls with Paul, places they never dared go before. And they went there because they knew that every step of courage they took, Paul would meet with a step of compassion. That's who he was. Places they'd never been before, meaning there are places now they can go that they never otherwise would have gone, and are. It's a high privilege to be speaking for the Warrior Brothers in this room, in some ways. So the very first words I ever heard from Paul were shortly after he and Anya moved down from Eugene, about 10 years ago. I had recently finished my own weekend, initiation weekend, and I was struggling some with this culture. There was a lot of languaging and ritual and protocol that I just felt like I wasn't really getting. I was letting it get in the way between me and the gold. And I met Paul at Hidden Springs. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks after he and Anya got here. And there was a circle of men. And when I got there was a lot of excitement because this MKP leader, this man who'd meant a lot to so many men, was moving here to the community. And in fact, he was going to be in the circle that night. And shortly thereafter, Paul came in and men stood up and embraced him and found him a seat. He was sitting immediately to my right. And the evening went on, and I was getting a little bored and a little lost, and there was a check-in in the middle of the evening. We went around the circle, and I wanted to find the voice to say that it wasn't meaning that much to me. But I was not going to do that, not that night anyway, with this revered leader in the room. I was going to offend him about something, the ritual that was so important to him. So I don't know what I said. I said not much at all. And then it passed to Paul. And Paul looked around, folded his arms. Very first words I ever heard come out of his mouth, he said, "If someone doesn't say something real pretty soon, I'm either going to fall asleep or throw up." He gave me permission quickly in a big way. 10 years later, the Tuesday before he died, I was with him, and he would come to a semi-consciousness with his coughing sometimes, from time to time, those of you who were with him towards the end. And when he did, I came up, I could see he sounded like he could listen. And the night before, on Monday night, 15 of us, most of us in this room, had been in a circle, what we call the Elders Circle, and we spent a big chunk of time with a candle to Paul in the middle, going around the room and sharing memories and thoughts and impressions and our feelings of Paul, doing our honoring of Paul. So this next day, as Paul seemed to have a little bit of alertness, I leaned over and I said, "Paul, can you hear me?" He nodded just a little bit, and I said, "I want to tell you what happened last night." And I described the time we'd spent remembering him and what he had meant to us. And I said to him, "So Paul, all these men sat in the room talking about all the ways they love you." And I could hear him, saw him stir, and I leaned over so I could hear him. And the very last words I heard from Paul were, "Most of them are lying." Well, in fact, we weren't. And peace that I get right now is knowing, Paul, that you knew that we weren't.
There's some words that come to mind for me right now. It's a beautiful book called The Prophet. Pain carves a vessel in our soul that then could contain that. Pain carves a vessel in our soul that then could contain so much more joy from that carving. I'm not saying it correctly, but I know that Paul would want us to feel and celebrate his life and to celebrate all the things that meant so much to him. Now you might be saying to yourself, I thought Jeff plays guitar, what's he doing with that little thing? This isn't a guitar I put in the dryer by mistake. It's a ukulele, and I now realize why I bought this instrument, because this is the most hallowed experience I could possibly think of, acquiring this instrument to play the song here today. Certainly Tiny Tim wasn't one of my mentors. Anyway, this is called Song of Hope.
It's my role as a minister to try to make spiritual sense out of Paul's life. So I start with this quote from The Lord of the Rings. Pippin says, "I didn't think it would end this way." Gandalf, "End? No. The journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one that we all must take. The gray rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it. Pippin. What, Gandalf, what? See what? Gandalf. White shores, and beyond, a fair green country, a swift sunrise. Pippin. Well, that's not all bad. Gandalf. No, it isn't. It seems Paul has been leading us down paths into that green countryside and towards swift sunrises all his life. Those who make the broad, ranging fields of love, the love of nature and of animals and of kids, their spiritual path, tend to be optimistic, risk takers, and to be wise in a cynical kind of way. So as Paul turned this corner on the path into Heaven's Gate, I'll bet he looked around and was saying back to us, hey, it's not so bad. It's actually kind of beautiful over here. Paul, even though you might not have wanted to admit it, I think you were walking that beauty way that the Navajo talk about. They say that when we leave our bodies, may there be a place on earth that will miss us. Paul, there's a place on earth that's really missing you right now. This little town of Ashland, and this good earth of our hearts. As Anya sat down to tell me stories about Paul's life, I was impressed with the clarity of his soul. Paul was a man who set out on the path of being a human in a courageous, sensitive, and forthright way. His life does call us to move out into the dark of the unknown, illumined by an inner vision of what life might be. Paul, you passed over, like Anya said, just in this moment when we're facing into this big end of time as we know it. I think that's pretty funny. And remembering you today gives us the courage, though, to answer yes, yes to the end, and to whatever role that we have to play as this great mystery continues to unfold on the planet. The example of your life calls us to put forth that little extra effort, to listen a little bit more deeply, to give one more ounce of strength, one more generous gift of love. You remind us that when we're about to give up, that the journey doesn't end here. The mystery is always unfolding. When our Pippin selves get afraid and say, but I didn't think it would end this way, then we hearken to the voice, the memory of the great ones who have walked among us, like Gandalf and Paul, who say, end? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one we all must take. Paul, you helped us to believe that in our hearts, that our fondest dreams for this fair earth might come true, and that we might make it while we're still in these bodies to that far green country under a swift sunrise. Well, yes, I am comparing Paul Moss to Gandalf here. Sorry, Paul. What? He loved Gandalf? Oh, that's perfect then. Well, you've called him a maverick warrior, so maybe we're talking the same language here. What does maverick warrior mean if not a wizard? Because Paul was not a warrior in the world sense of the term. He was a maverick in the sense that he helped to create a new way for men to be warriors. A warrior of the open, vulnerable heart is the most challenging kind of warrior to be, right, men? He was a man who encouraged other men to feel deeply, as Jeff was telling us, to come present to the deepest shadow stuff, to face the hard places and be brave enough to snatch the gift right out of the tiger's jaw. I got to know Paul a lot better over the last couple of years when he and Anya started coming to Unity, where I'm the minister. And in the last year, which I didn't know would be the last, we became very close. I loved Paul being in the gathering at Unity. You know why? Because he was so damn hard to please. I had to really hit the mark of authenticity every time for Paul to give me the thumbs up. And I was blessed because most every week he hugged me and whispered in my ear, "You did good, kid." And sometimes he even said, "You hit a home run today." But I remember one time afterwards, he left without talking to me. And so I called him up and I said, "Paul, you didn't like what I said today, did you?" And he said, mincing no words, of course, "No. You had too many platitudes today, and I hate platitudes." I apologized, and he listened to me as I sorted out why I had gone too superficial that week. Paul kept me real. It's always about going deep within and turning over the soil of our own grief and our own pain and digging deep enough all the way to find the gold, the nugget of truth that satisfies the soul. It's down there. You just have to keep digging and breathing till you find it. And Paul was a gold digger, don't you know? In the spiritual sense of the term. "No Death, No Fear" was the title of one of his favorite sermons that I did. After the service, he hugged me and said, "You did that one for me, didn't you?" At Unity, I try to draw upon the best of all the world's traditions, and that day I was talking about Thich Nhat Hanh. And he has a certain way of approaching death and challenging the moments of suffering and letting go. We affirm the existence of a universal presence and a power that is one. And we say that this one that has created everything is love. That that's all there is. And we deny the appearances of things that threaten us or cause us to have fear that something that we love might be destroyed or that we can get separated from love. So we don't deny that these hard things exist. We just deny that they have any power to separate us from love. So I think Paul really liked that message because it's a non-dualistic spiritual practice. It doesn't settle for a dualistic solution that some are good and going to heaven and others are bad and going to hell. At Unity, we even deny that hell exists. We go somewhere else. Like Rumi says, we go on out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing. We go to that field where we all meet, out where that phrase, each other, doesn't even make any sense anymore. There's nothing we can do that can really separate us from love. And if we forget this, let's just think about Paul. Just remember looking into his eyes. You know what I mean? You knew when you looked into his eyes that nothing you had done or could do could shock him enough to make him run away from you. He was right there, waiting for you to come back to love. He might withdraw a bit like he did that day after church to get you to examine yourself, but then he'd be right there when you had the guts to look deeply enough. So yes, Paul, you were a fearless man. You went for it. You did brave acts. You turned toward what needed to be done, and you just did it, lickety-split. Anya says that a friend of theirs in the Bay Area called him that because he just took the tasks, the hard ones that needed to be done, and he'd just do them, lickety-split. Like the time that the friend was in grief about her partner dying, I think it was, and she was talking about needing the bed that had all these memories in it to be gotten rid of. And so Paul just got up and took the bed, lifted it up, and threw it out the second-story window. Done. So it was like that when he saw the process of dying coming. He turned toward it. The courage, the peace, with acceptance. I'll never forget the day. It was not so long ago. It was just in the summer. When Paul called me and he said, "Norma, Anya and I have got to talk to you right away." So I dropped everything and I met them in my backyard. And we sat there in the warm summer sun, my dear friends. And Paul said, "Norma, I think I'm going to be leaving here." And I said, "What? No, way. No, 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 no. And he told me about his diagnosis. And I was shocked, but I was trying to bargain it away. And I tried to suggest this and that, ideas of how to get around it, let this cup pass you on by. But he said, no, I've got a feeling this is my time to go. He was the brave one. And you might think that a brave guy like him would be hardened or tough, but that's not it. He was huge and feeling it all in his very vulnerable heart. Because Paul, he's got a heart of flesh and not of stone. He accepted the tough things in life and he didn't turn from them. He turned towards it. He turned towards guys in prison. He turned towards single mothers who needed help with their kids. He turned towards people with addictions at the absolute bottom rung of hope. And you know what? He did something about it. He showed up. He cared. He listened. He didn't make light of it. He found the way out of the caves of the deepest, darkest despair. And he led countless people all the way out. Like a coal miner, I picture him with a light on his cap all the time, saying, come this way. Move toward the light here. You're going to be okay. I think he and I met so deeply because we came from that same lineage of soul that we both loved to work with people in the direst of straits. Me with abused kids and battered women and young men dying of AIDS and young women who've been raped, and he with prisoners and addicts and men seeking to be warriors of the heart like you. So we recognized one another as co-workers in the trenches. A few weeks before he left us, I asked him if there was anything left that was bothering him, anything he needed to clear up or let go of. And he said, you know, I've met with all my loved ones and we're okay. But there's just one thing that still really pisses me off. It's when people blame the victims and say, well, it's their karma, and they don't do anything to try to change this world. Don't blame it on their karma. Go out and take care of them, for God's sake. Well, Anya and Paul, you've both been a steady stream of inspiration for me about what spirituality is all about. Go out and take care of them. You've both met me on profound levels of authenticity and fed me spiritual meat. Indeed, many times you'd say to me, come on over, have some lamb stew, and let's sit down and chew on the deeper questions of life. Paul's life will continue to be that for me for the rest of my life, a holy spring of inspiration. Holy spring. He was a true friend of my soul. Every time I speak now, I remember the feeling of Paul hugging me after the service and whispering in my ear, you done good, kid. Coming from him, I need no other accolade. When I get to Heaven's Gate, I imagine being met by my own dad and Paul, welcoming me with open arms and smiling and nodding, saying, you done good, kid. That will be my great reward.
Shadows gone, break of day, real life has begun. I'm just going home.
It's easy when you try. No help.
However you got to this site, whatever you had to click on, thanks for being here, welcome. And I really want to start with a poem, which I'm not a poetry guy, but for you, my NKP brethren, who had the absolute, what's the word I want, of hearing Don Jones, the absolute pleasure. Don Jones opened up the Thursday night Warrior Weekend. He would recite D.H. Lawrence, and this poem has come back to me, and I read it almost every day. And for me, it speaks of everything. It speaks of life, it speaks of death, it speaks of corporations, it speaks of banking, it speaks of everything. So I want to start with that because it's so poignant for me. So if you can remember Big Don Jones standing up in front and saying, I don't have his voice unfortunately, but his deep voice, when we get out of the glass bottles of our ego, and when we escape like squirrels turning in the cages of our personality and get into the forest again, we shall shiver with cold and fright, but things will happen to us so that we don't know ourselves. Cool, unlying life will rush in, and passion will make our bodies taut with power. We shall stamp our feet with new power, and old things will fall down. We shall laugh, and institutions will curl up like burnt paper. So I guess some of that, I feel like some of that is happening to me, that the institution of life maybe is going to, not maybe, seems to be curling up like burnt paper. So the purpose of all of this is to, I'm a people guy, and Anya's a people gal. And I really want to invite anyone who wants to share some of this journey with me and with us. So we've chosen this mode to do it. The underlying, and there is an underlying reason for this, and it has to do with, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. You know, the doctors give me these timelines, which I won't even talk about. But we need to raise some money. We are a very limited means. Most of my life, and Anya's life too, has been devoted to service rather than chasing the dollar. So we haven't chased down a whole lot of dollars. And hopefully we put a whole lot of service in the bank. So maybe for this next period, and certainly in my life, we can make some withdrawals in the bank. I've chosen not to seek aggressive treatment for this cancer that's inside me. I don't believe in it. I don't think it services the journey that I really want to be on. And I've chosen to, however long I have to be here, to live a life of vitality and health and love and joy. And we're asking for some support in doing that. So from your heart, from your pocketbook, however you feel comfortable, any way that you choose to do this would be more than appreciated. And if you don't have the means, please stay with us. Please stay on the journey. We'll be talking. I'll be listening to you, to myself, and hopefully I'll learn a whole lot more than I've learned so far. So thanks for being here. What's I'm going to say?
This is a time of great learning, a time of surrender and letting go of a lot of agendas for me. And it's very surreal. I wanted to talk about that because, you know, I work with elderly people, and one of the gifts that I have is to be able to relate to them as who they are, not as their diagnosis. So Paul has this diagnosis, and it's very unreal to me.
It's unreal to me too?
It's very unreal. I mean, there's cancer, that C word, that big C word, and not a whole lot of symptoms. And so it's very unreal. The only thing that I'm aware of is that there seems to be an intensity and a flavor in our life right now that's bringing everything into a kind of a crystallization and a time of really paying attention and listening and poignancy. And I love that, and I'm grateful for that. But I don't know where it's coming from. I think it's just coming from our hearts and from our love for each other. And it's being precipitated by this whatever it is. And it could be this whatever it is, this cancer, but it could also be the times that we're living in, which are really extraordinary. Things are breaking down and falling apart, and we're being asked, I've been asked for a long time now, what's really important? What do we really pay attention to? What are our priorities? And they seem to get bigger and brighter and louder right now. And I have a lot of feeling about that. And I've talked with some people, and I really feel that, you know, many of us are being brought to this moment now of surrender and brought to our knees and humility and what's really important. You know, where is the love in our life? Where is our garden? Where is our food? Who is in our community? Who is a part of my soul? These are the questions that we're all asking right now, but they seem to be bigger right here between us because of this story. There's this story, and it's very surreal to me because if I don't think about it, it almost doesn't exist. What really does exist is the feeling between us and the quality of life that we've had and that we continue to have. That's very real. So sometimes I walk around in a daze and wondering, well, what's this all about? Well, what's this all about? How did you show up? And how did Joseph walk in the door at this moment? And, you know, life is this whole series of beautiful synchronicities now. And lovely people coming forward with their hearts wide open, with this great generosity and this great love. And is it because, but why? I mean, why is this happening?
I haven't got the slightest idea.
I guess it doesn't matter why. You get the movie prize for knowing why, but I do ask that question, how, you know.
See, I'm not sure there's always an answer to why, and I'm not really interested. So I can spend a lot of time trying to figure out why and speculate and come up with all of these great reasons that may have absolutely nothing to do with the truth. So the only truth I have now is hanging out with the people I love, especially this one. So the good news is that we've been around together for 30 plus years, and we love each other more than we ever have. So it's possible. As hard as it has been, it's possible.
Imagine all the people sharing all the they say I'm a dreamer.
So, in the last couple weeks of Paul's life, I got a telephone call from a dear old friend of mine from the Bay Area where I lived for many years. And she told me that the person who felt to her like a second father was transitioning out of this world, and she wanted to come and be with him, and could she stay at our house? And so of course we said yes. And I knew Anya from Unity Church in Paula as well, but I had no idea that that was the person that my dear friend Elisheva was talking about. And when she arrived at our house, she recounted her story of Paul and her life as a young woman and now a mother, and talked about you and Paul coming to visit her in the hospital when she was receiving her baby Max, and how powerful these moments of connection also felt to her, amplified and prismatically refracted into a much brighter light every moment that she had with him. And then she said, would you come over and do some singing with me for Paul and Anya? And I realized that you lived a block away. Speaking of how important our communities are. So I put my down jacket on and walked to the block a cold winter night to Anya's house and sat with Paul and Elisheva, and we just started to sing improvisationally songs that we knew together from our time in Jewish community in the Bay Area, and prayers that are ancient and come from sources beyond our time. But of course, the prayer that we didn't say or sing that night is the prayer that we say in the Jewish tradition when we are saying this prayer in a way to assist the soul of the person who's transitioning as it makes its flight into the next dimension. And in mourning, we say the prayer every day for a year. So every day, you say this prayer in an effort to lift the person's soul up, 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 closer and closer to the divine. But it's against the rules to say the prayer alone. You need 10 people. You need 10 people around you, because that's the way that we hold each other. So we definitely have a minyan today, a quorum of 10 holy sacred beings ready to lift the soul up and give it a little extra energy, inspiration, and zest to take flight. And this prayer is actually in the book in front of you if you want to read it with me, and you're so very welcome to. It's on page 224. And the words are transliterated there for you, and I'll just read them very slowly. But I wanted to say that this prayer is often called the mourner's Kaddish. So it is a prayer that we say when we're grieving, but it doesn't mention death at all, not one time. It's The other name for the prayer in Hebrew is called the Kaddish Shalem. You probably know the word shalom. The word shalem is like the next level. It means total completeness. So we don't say this prayer until the journey as we know it is totally complete. And in that sense, we acknowledge that the human being for whom we say this prayer has completed, is completing. And we give them assistance even now in that process. So if you will rise in body or spirit, we say this prayer surrounding Paul's spirit, which I know is surrounding us, lifting it up high, 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 beyond the realms of our mind, sending it out to that field Norma spoke about. We lift it up in wholeness and in peace. We'll read together. Yitkada Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divra Kirutei Be'amlich Malkutei B'chayachon U'yomechon B'chayei B'kol Beit Yisrael B'agala B'zman Kariv V'iru Amen Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam L'admei Al-Maya Yitparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shemei l'kudisha v'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shalom Rabbah min Shemaya B'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru Amen. May the one, the great oneness that is peace on high, make peace for us, for all on earth, and make peace the pathway as the soul transitions. And we say,
Anya's asked me to come up and sing Imagine. Some people have walked up to me and said, "Hey, you look like Paul Moss." I'm pretty honored by that. And so I left the lyrics of Imagine on some of your seats, and I'm honored to sing it for Anya, but I'm hoping everybody here will sing it with me. And I'm kind of nervous, but I've been practicing on the piano all week. I got my felt hat that Paul made me, so I'm going to wear that. And if we all sing out clear, I bet you will hear us. Imagine there's Imagine all
Thank you, Joseph. We have some time now for comments from any of you who'd like to say something spontaneously. There were a few that already indicated they'd like to. And first up is Grant Williams, who's going to bring up Paul's best friend, other than Anya.
This is Sophie. I think it's a testament to Paul. What a bundle of joy this little animal is. And a mean bone in her body. So I'm going to read, I hope, something that came to me in a dream. That would be a good idea. This is from Sophie. I wanted to get my bid in on this most memorable day. I want to bark my gratitude for having been chosen by Master Paul. He never knew that I chose him on that day 3 years ago. Maybe on second thought he did. Anyway, I could not have been more blessed than to have Paul as my friend, teacher, and guide through our journey together, brief as it was. I loved this man in my unconditional way, giving him all the loyalty and trust I could as we explored the hills of Ashland together. He soon found out how much I loved to fetch balls, and even bought one of those magic wand things that you put a ball in so I got to run more, because the ball would go farther. I know my master is gone, but I think of him every day. Someday, somehow, some way, I believe we will play again. May my dog dreams always keep us together, and our eternal bond sacred with my shorty tail always wagging. Woof, woof, old friend. I'd like to read something that inspired me. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see that all he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind and be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would want, smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. That's from a man named David Harkins. Paul was my teacher, my warrior brother, my fellow New Yorker, but most of all, he was my friend.
Thanks, Grant. David Wick, where are you? Dogs always steal the show.
Paul is a very dear friend in many ways. A guide, a dear brother, a kick in the pants, and always generous of heart in many other ways. Just a couple of things I just want to share. That Jim Mao here, Jim Mao and I and Paul, for quite a long time, we would meet once a week. And we'd meet about how are we going to make some money, and coming up with great ideas. And we called ourselves the $3 Club. And we're still wondering how to do that. And also I want to share I really got into cutting wood and splitting wood And that's how Irene and I get our home now. And about 3 years ago, I said, Paul, I've been into splitting some wood now, and I really need to find a mall. He said, hey, all right, yeah, take this. So they let me borrow his maul, his splitting maul. And I'd use it for a season, and then I'd talk to him and I'd see him and say, hey Paul, you want your maul back? Take it. No, man, I'm not using it, I can't use it. Just keep using it. Okay, yeah. So another season, I use it again. It's warmed the home for many times. And beautiful Paul would say, no, just keep using it. Just do it. Okay. And I feel now that he is on the other side. I had his, it says Paul Moss Mall. I had it steel engraved here. And what I want to do is in the next anniversary of this time, next year, is when there's a gathering to pass it on to the next man or woman who has a need and has to take this and use it. But we'll pass it on in the following year, pass it on to another person. So it will be alive and used, and Paul warms our hearts and our homes.
Thanks, David. Amrita, where are you?
Wow, so many of you love Paul. And I just want to give you a little snapshot of how early on he started being a teacher of love. In 1974, we met at the Living Love Center in Berkeley, August 1st. And he was Paul, and I was Mary. And within a few months, he was Hanuman, which is servant of God. And I was Amrita. We were Amrita and Hanuman, servant of God, and he has always been a servant of love, as you know. And many of you don't know what a loving father he was to my two daughters, who were 3 and 5 at the time. I just made this little thing. I know you can't all see it, but it shows Paul with hair, beautiful dark hair, and I'm there too, and Melody and Nori are there. And he was a balloonist. See, you may not have known that. And so, and we created a center called the Circle of Love Center. And now I just see that the Circle of Love is so huge. I mean, our Circle of Love, we didn't know how to make money, we just didn't know how to do it back then in the 70s with the growth center in the San Jose. But look what's happened, with how he loves and his dedication to oneness. And so Paul and Anya have been in my life such a long time now, 81. You guys met on Halloween night. And so these are some pictures about that. And so now Melody and Nori are, Nori has kids, and you can see them here. And this is a picture of Paul in July with my littlest grandson, Enzo. So, I don't know, I just wanted to give you this other whole snapshot of Paul as such a loving, caring father, and a true friend always. No matter what, even though the Circle of Love ended, the center, we've always been true friends. And so, thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you. So is there anyone here who would like to say something? Okay. Come on up. I can take you the mic.
Is Clay here by any chance? Clay is not. Okay. My name is Perry Prince, and I met Paul probably about a year or so ago at the Dad's house at On Track. And before I met him, the guys in the group would say, wow, this guy, Paul, would go downstairs and do these really meaningful, heavy groups together. So I had no idea who this Paul Moss was or what he was going to look like. But he was very big in my imagination. And one day, this guy, who was kind of small, walked in there and said hello to me, and my introvertedness I sort of, like that. And it turned out that it was Paul. And I was surprised. And then the more we worked together and did things with the guys in the group, that I'm going to say Paul and Sophie the dog, that the more we worked together, in some ways, we just started working very well together. And got this nice flow going. And some of the guys would tell these horrendous stories. And it never really, nothing ever fazed Paul. I mean, he was just there for them. And that meant so much to him because he was non-judgmental. And they were working to start new loves, new life, and a view of the world. And then when Paul left because he just didn't feel strong enough, the guys were asking, where is Paul? What happened to him? And he didn't say anything to them. He wasn't sure how to say it. And so there was nothing much that was said. But then little by little word got out. And when Paul passed and went to the next level in our universe, that I went down to the group, the dad's group and the day drinking group, and told the guys there what happened with Paul and then he passed. And there was just such deep, deep feeling in them. The ones that knew him and the people that worked with him. And they I think many of them very much wanted to come here today, but a lot didn't have a way to get here because of their situation. They had lost their driver's license, didn't have cars, etc. And some of them told stories how Paul, this one guy, how he and his wife were having a very difficult time, and Paul went out in the night and they spent several hours together doing family therapy. And when they heard that Paul had then passed, they said that this was in the group, that they went and they wrote letters to Paul, he and his wife, and they put it in a tin can and burned it because they knew that he was cremated. And they said, now, where will Paul? So there was great passion and fondness for Paul, for the people that knew him. And of course, when we were doing the group, Sophie would be there. And whenever one of the group members was having a very hard time, she would just crawl up in their lap and be there with him. And I'm thinking, did Sophie teach Paul this, or did Paul teach Sophie? Because we all sort of merge with our pets and animals. There's not a whole lot of difference. And there was just one last story. I think of Sophie, not as Sophie, but as Snopey, because there was a little girl who might have been 4 years old that knew Sophie. She wasn't old enough or hadn't heard language enough from an impoverished environment that she came from. And so she didn't know how to say Sophie. And she called Sophie Snopey, which I think is a wonderful name. And that's how I refer to Snopey now. So, Paul, I will miss you and everything about you. And one of the things I will greatly miss is that I'm from the East Coast, and so is Paul. And a certain companionship that we had in being our East Coasters together. So, my heart is with you.
Okay. Is this mic working, Jay?
Yes.
Great. Come on up. And I don't know how many more there are, but just in case this starts turning into the Academy Awards, it goes on all night, it might need to be brief.
I'm Kaylin. I would like to speak about Paul as a woman. And I would like to speak about Paul as a sister to my very dear friend Anya. And to say that in my entire life, I have never seen a man more constant, more loving, more present in relationship than I saw Paul Moss. I think he showed up that way everywhere in his life. But to experience the depth of relationship between Paul and Anya, and to see his day in, day out truth, authenticity, and constancy was a total and complete delight. And I'm very thankful for it.
Thanks, Kaylin.
My name is Eva, and I wrote a tribute to Paul that's quite lengthy that I'm not going to present tonight, but of course. But the ending of it was that I applaud Paul's life and I give him a standing ovation for his continuing transformation.
Thank you. Thank you all. I know that
Since nobody is standing up, and I'm sitting with this story. So I met Paul about 10 years ago, right after I met the man that became my husband. My name is Sarah, and Paul and Anya actually officiated at our Ashland wedding when we finally did get married. And when I first met Paul, we went out to dinner together, and I was just coming into this community, and I just felt so at home with this man, this New York Jew, that I felt like I could really relate to. And he was so obnoxious and ornery and so Paul, and yet I was so relieved. And then I come here tonight at this memorial, and I know him in my own way over these 10 years, and always talk about love, and that was like one word that I rarely ever heard Paul use. Seriously, ever. It was who he was and how he showed up, but I hardly ever heard him use that word. And so it was interesting to see the video again, because I had the honor of being with Paul and Anya over the last weeks of his life, and I came over one day, and this was probably about, I want to say 3 or 4 days before he passed, and he was in bed, and the brothers were there, and he was sleeping, and I walked in, and he sat up, and he said, "Sarah, oh, Sarah." And I was so happy that he woke up, because I really wanted to see him one more time. I said, "Come over here," and I sat down in bed next to him, and he said, "I got the answer, Sarah, I got the answer." And I said, "Oh my God, what, Paul, what?" I was so excited, and he looked at me and he said, "I know what's on the other side." And so in that moment, every single cell in my body was so excited, because it's one of my big questions, I'm sure like many of you, and I totally trusted Paul. Like, if he knew, he was going to give me the goods right there. And so I said, "What, Paul, what?" And he looked at me, and I'm expecting him to say something like, nothing, it's all a big stinking joke. What do you expect? And he just looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, love. And I burst into tears. And he lied back down. And then he opened his eyes again and he said, you know, I died last night. And it's true. And I said, thank you, Paul, for that darshan, because I believe you. And then he opened his eyes one more time and he said, but why people do all this kind of shit to each other? That I don't got no answer for. And so it's so funny to see him on the video saying, why? Why do people? I don't know. There's not an answer. So thank you, Paul. Yeah. I love you.
Hi, my name is Jeff Meinberg. And so I'm thinking that if Woody Allen was right, that 90% of success is showing up, then Paul Moss was the embodiment of success. Because he showed up for so many people. And he had this really rare, remarkable quality. I mean, Paul was always so present with you. You always felt like you were with him, but he had this really rare and remarkable quality to give and show love, both gently and fiercely at the same time. And I will always remember this about my big-hearted brother from New Jersey. Thank you, Paul.
Hey, no, Iliaka ikapoleo hele.
We're going to move into the completion of the service in a moment here. Just like to invite you to offer a donation back in the bowl at the back to help cover the expense for this beautiful space and also for end-of-life expenses. And I'd like to ask the men who were in the I group that Paul and I started to stand up, wherever you are. And there are a few who've since left and moved out of town. If you wouldn't mind standing, I'm going to read a poem that one of our members wrote, David McKenzie. He's now living in Mexico. And he sent this up and asked me to read it on behalf of our group, which was a maverick group. We broke all the rules. We got in big trouble, and all the other guys wanted to join our group. He is singing. And please enjoy looking at Paul while I read this, okay? I'll stand out of the way. He is singing. Can't help himself. This song of love forged out of the beat of your unmistakable heart. Wild. Like wind on the wide open ocean. Like the perfect edge of the samurai's sword. Cutting your own shackles, then all of ours. The sweet runoff from your life, raising a new crop of wonder as you water the seeds of love here from there. Laughing your soul song in the life beyond words. So now, you've become part of my smile that I can't escape from. Now we are dancing in the wide delta of all that life is, all at once. Making sense beyond sense in love. In love. In.
In the words of our beloved Rumi, you have fallen in love, my dear heart. Congratulations. You have freed yourself from all attachments. Congratulations. You have given up both worlds to be on your own. The whole creation praises your solitude. Congratulations. Your disbelief has turned into belief, your bitterness into sweetness. Congratulations. You have now entered into love's fire, my pure heart. Congratulations. Inside the Sufi's heart, there is always a feast. Dear heart, you are celebrating. Congratulations. My heart, I have seen how your tears turned into a sea. Now every wave keeps saying, congratulations. O silent lover, seeker of the higher planes, may the beloved always be with you. Congratulations. You have struggled hard. May you grow wings and fly. Congratulations. Keep silent, my dear heart. You have done so well. You have done so well. Congratulations.
Congratulations, all of you, being Paul's beloveds. And now is the time in our gathering here to say our final goodbyes. It's called the committal, traditionally in a service like this. Lots of times people go out to the gravesite and actually shovel some dirt in the grave to make it real. But we want to make it real here now and say our final goodbyes in our hearts. Anya and I were sitting there next to each other, and at one point we were looking at the picture there, and we both felt it. We said, it feels like he's here. Maybe you've been feeling that too. But now it's our duty, our responsibility to let him go. Let him go. Out of our hearts to where he needs to go. You know how they say in the Tibetan tradition, go towards the light. Go towards the light, O nobly born one. So I just find it really significant that this is the day that Anya chose, and we are here for this letting go of Paul. As all over this country there are candlelight vigils going on, and people are in mourning, and people are looking into their hearts as Americans about what have we got to do differently, how have we got to change things, how have we got to listen more deeply to people that are hurting so that such bad things don't happen. This is the day that we're doing Paul's memorial service. And there's a saying that goes, the soul isn't something that lives inside of us. The soul only exists in community. And Paul's soul surely existed in community, didn't it? So this is the day, Paul. This is the day that we have come to in this community of people that love you, that it's been chosen for us to say goodbye. So I've chosen as the final ritual of saying goodbye this poem from the Anam Cara book, because the Anam Cara book is about people who help people to die and to let go, and that's what Anya and Paul have been doing this. They've been being Anam Caras for people, and so now we're going to be the Anam Cara for Paul's soul, and not only for him, but as he would want it, for all of those children that got killed, for all of those teachers and parents, and for the ones at the mall in Portland, for all of them. We're going to be the Anam Cara right now. And I'd like you to say this with me. I'll say the first part, and then you say, we remember them. We remember them. So this is an old Celtic prayer. In the rising of the sun and in its setting, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blue sky and the warmth of summer, We remember them. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and its end, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us, and we will remember them. Paul Moss, may your soul be held now in the loving bonds of eternal life and of all the saints. And may the one who makes peace in the cosmos make peace descend upon us all as you leave us now. And let us all say, goodbye, Paul. Goodbye, Paul. Goodbye, Paul. And so it is. Blessed be. And it is done.
That one. This is for Anya, because you are an amazing grace and this community supports you. You have been a big inspiration to all of us. Thank you. Blessings. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now
for being a part of this man's life, because he really helped him.